What's up, everybody? In this video, we're going to be talking about three dividend ETFs, mix of some high yield and some high growth, that I believe have really good upside potential and are potentially really good buys. I mean, as you can see right now, my portfolio is down pretty bad, especially over the past week. We're down 3%. In the past month, down almost 8%, almost $1,000, which is not something that you always want to see. But in the long term, the market has historically proven to always recover, and I do believe that it will over the long term. So I'm continuing to buy. And with these ETFs potentially been in the red over the past entire year alone, I think right now is a good time to get in. So before I go any further in this video, I ask if you enjoy this type of content that you subscribe to the channel, you turn on post notifications so that you don't miss out on any future videos. But let's go ahead and get straight into it. So the first stock we're going to be talking about, or technically ETF, is ticker SCHD, Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. And like I showed, and like I said, the ETF is down 1.37% over the past year. Over the past 5 years, though, long term up 70.5%, which is a really, really good return. They have a trailing 12-month yield of about 2.94%. They pay their dividends on a quarterly basis with an expense ratio of 0.06%. Their dividends, they have some really good grades in my personal opinion. Dividend growth of about 4 years and a 5-year growth rate of 12%. And the forward yield is 2.69%. The consistency on this dividend and just kind of looking at how they pay. Remember, this is an ETF, so the payments aren't always going to be like a stock and just go up and down, up and down, The companies that they hold pay dividends at different times, different frequencies, So they're paying these dividends relatively differently. So we're seeing different things happen, but overall scheme is that they're paying consistently and increasing over the long term. Looking on what this ETF is, let's go ahead and talk about it. They include firms with a 10-year history of paying dividends. The objective is to focus on quality companies with sustainable dividends, such that the approach gives a fund a modest large cap tilt. It doesn't have any REITs, and individual securities are capped at 4% in sectors at 25% of the portfolio. Looking into like some of their top holdings and different things like that, their top 10 sectors are finance, consumers, non-durable, and health technology. Top holdings are Merck, Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Home Depot, Texas Instruments, a lot of different companies. The only really company in this little list that I don't really like is honestly IBM. I think IBM is, I don't want to say it's a dying business, but I think that it's just not a good investment in my personal opinion. So with the annual coming up of the portfolio kind of like review and cutting of different stocks, they're going to trim these positions in my personal opinion, bring them back down to below 4%, maybe 3.99%, whatever it might be. But looking on some key things, the fund will do well under rate hikes due to its large cap value holdings and large position in financials that stand to gain from such increases in rate hikes and things like that. So this has seemed to be a good stock and a great ETF in my personal opinion. But let's go ahead and talk about the second ETF, and that's going to be DGRO, DGRO, iShares Core Dividend Growth ETF, down 1.82% over the past year. In the past 5 years, up 62.25%. They have an expense ratio of 0.08%, a trailing 12 months yield of about 2.11%. The dividends on this company, pretty good in my personal opinion. 5-year growth rate of 10.2%, a forward yield of 2.06%, and a dividend growth of 7 years. Looking at the dividend history, let's see how this ETF has been paying recently. Over the past 5 years, this is a pretty good trend in my personal opinion, 30 cents to 26. So hopefully we'll get another good payment coming up pretty soon. DGRO, let's talk about what this ETF is. They aim to find stocks that pay steadily increasing dividends by requiring a 5-year track record of increasing dividends while ensuring that the firm pays out no more than 75% of earnings. So this is like two birds, one stone type of thing. They don't pay more than 75%, which means the dividend should be sustainable, and the 5-year track record shows that they do have importance and value in their dividend. Looking at their top sectors and top holdings, we got finance, health technology, and electronic technology, and top holdings are Microsoft, Johnson & Johnson, and Apple. A few companies that I strongly believe in JP Morgan, Coca-Cola, Home Depot, Pfizer, Procter & Gamble, really good companies, even Broadcom as well, But let's go ahead and get more into who DGRO really is. They have about 418 holdings. IT has the biggest slice with 19.78%, and about a quarter of the portfolio is in the top 10 stocks. Microsoft, J&J, Apple, J.P. Morgan, Pfizer, Procter & Gamble, Merck. So some really, really good companies. And looking even more into DGROW, it's saying right here, there's been a lot of ETF inflow in this ETF recently. And what that pretty much means, if you don't know, is there's a lot of buying pressure. There's a lot of money being put into this ETF, pretty much saying, hey, we have demand for this ETF. And it's been coming very recently. This was published last week on May 4th. And they detected about $125 million in inflow, which is about a 0.5 increase week over week in the outstanding units, which is a lot. So that's really good in my personal opinion. Seeing the inflow, follow the smart money is what a lot of investors do say. But let's go ahead and talk about the third and the final ETF on this list, and that is going to be VIG. Pretty sure you've heard of it probably. It's a very common, very popular dividend ETF. It's Vanguard Dividend Appreciation ETF. Over the past year, they're down 3.48%. Year to date, they're down 11.8%. In the past 5 years, they're still up 65%, which is really, really good. So they have an expense ratio of 0.06%. Then we have 1.86% is their trailing 12-month yield. And they pay these dividends on a quarterly basis. Looking at the dividends right here, really good grades. We got a 9.06% 5-year growth rate. 2 years is a dividend growth record, and a forward yield of about 1.81%. Looking at who VIG is, VIG, track a market cap weighted index of U.S. companies that have increased their dividends for 10 or more consecutive years. These annual dividends getting increased for 10 or more, that's a long, long time. They focus, VIG is a dividend growth ETF, that's their main focus. They exclude the top 25 highest yielding companies based on indicated annual dividend yield. And they usually have here it is. This results in a portfolio typically carries only moderately higher than our vanilla benchmark. But the growth that they're seeing is what you got to pretty much just kind of agree with and understand that the growth is what we're going to see year over year. And that's kind of the long-term basis on holding VIG. And then what we're going to see right now is the top 10 sectors are finance, tech services, and consumers non-durable. Top holdings, Microsoft, United Health Group, and Johnson & Johnson. Some really good holdings right here. You got Visa, J.P. Morgan, Home Depot, some good financial companies that could benefit from the rate hikes and different things that we're seeing right now in the markets and in the economy. So let's talk about VIG. If maximizing present-day income is not a concern, this is your ETF. The portfolio compound is really good. It's more balanced in VYM, which is like a very similar ETF. It's Vanguard's other dividend ETF, one of the others. VIG does have a lower yield than VYM, but the 10-year compound annual growth rate, which is what you're aiming for if you're looking for that growth, is really, really good. So dividends reinvested stand at 12.9% returns rather than VYM's 12.2% annual return. So these are still very good annual returns that this is giving to investors. So my personal opinion, a really good ETF. But remember, I'm not a financial advisor. Don't just buy an ETF or a stock because I say so. But that's going to wrap it up for this video. Thank you for making it to the end. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment below. All that good stuff for the algorithm. Get this message out to as many people. Check out M1 Finance using the link in the description or the pinned comment down below. Go check out all those links. I really do believe they're greatly beneficial. Check out my Udemy courses. I've got an NFT investing course coming out if you want to check that out. It's going to be on discount. It might even be free by the time you see it. So make sure to check it out. Thank you again, and I will see you at the next video.